This week, we're continuing The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, otherwise known as I'm Not the Poe, I'm the Butthole.
Hi, readers. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine, Season 2, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines of any genre. Because that's what we do now.
Want to see what's next on our TBR list? Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Instagram for a sneak peek at upcoming content or to help us pick our next book. Guess who's back? Back again. The Familiar. Still fibrous.
The fibrous Familiar, Part 2. We are still in the past, readers. There is still no little mini Katie.
Nope. I'm still miserable. I'm very pregnant.
We're going to push through this Whole Foods trip, and it's going to be awesome and healthy, and you're going to like it.
Yep. I will say this part is more confusing than the other parts. Like there's a lot more going on.
If you weren't confused before, like, I'm sorry.
Just wait, it gets worse.
Like, I'll put a little child backpack on you with a leash, and we'll just drag you along through the book as we go through.
Basically. You're gonna be like, oh, can I learn more about this orange blossom thing? We're gonna give you a yank.
No.
Like, nope, we need to get in line for Magic
But what about
Kingdom.
more tension between Saint Angel and Lucia? Nope, no more. We're just gonna go straight into
just plot.
Yeah. All right.
No romance.
Here we go. Okay. If I have any complaints about this book, I feel like romance was meant to be a huge theme throughout, but it never resonated.
No, because it kind of felt like romance out of desperation, like two people who have been deprived of things for so long that they're like, yeah, I mean, this is one chance. Let's get her done. Because there's no emotional ties behind it, I guess. It feels very surface level.
Yeah, because we don't have a 65% mark. We have a 50, 45% mark. And it is
they get down to the nasty immediately.
Yeah. But getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, give us 20 minutes.
All right, where we left off. Lucia had just saved Saint Angel, and they are getting ready to go to the competition with all of the other patrons, and they're all their designated miracle magic workers. So they arrive, and we have a collection of miracle workers. One is known as the Child, I guess.
The Holy Child.
The Holy Child. And this is a 7-8-year-old girl who's petite and beautiful and just voice of an angel. And her magic is forecasting the future. And so, again, very important if you're a monarch and you are trying to conquer other nations or defend your nation. I would want a prophet too. So that's why she's very valuable. And then we have another competitor called the Beauty. And it's about what it sounds like. She's pretty.
Yep. That's her talent, being beautiful.
She's pretty and can do some magic. That's about it. And then we have one final competitor who, God, he just thinking about this character annoys the shit out of me. What was his fucking name again?
The Prince of Olives.
Oh, that's why. God, he's such an...
Because it's crazy. Leigh Bardugo did pull a fast one on people. His whole story arc is very you are kind of okay with him at the beginning, and then you're like, God damn.
What is going? Yeah. So the Prince of Olives is a poor farm worker who has music magic. And so he has a little lute or something, and he can play it and sing magic to life, basically. And he was discovered by a wealthy noblewoman who was like, you're handsome and can work magic. You're going to live in my bed for a little while. Yeah. And he's like, well, that sucks, but guess it's better than what I'm doing now. And so he is a boy toy for a wealthy woman, and he's a miracle worker. So the competition starts, and Lucia's a little nervous. Everyone's a little nervous. They have to go on stage in front of this big dinner party and perform a miracle. And so the Beauty is up first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
which is where our problems begin.
She does some stuff with glasses, which is kind of Lucia's trademark. Is there's a bunch of goblets that are like assembled in a pyramid. I kind of pictured the scene from Discongeniality. Have you
I did too.
seen?
Yes,
Okay,
that's exactly what I
where
was
she's
thinking.
at the competition in her little German girl outfit, and she okay. So that's your setup right there. The beauty, the glasses are shattered, and miraculously she repairs them. Yay! With a lot of smoke and mirrors and fancy lights and stuff. And you're like, oh, is this really magic? No, not at all.
It is not.
And so Lucia is kind of fucked right now because she's like, well, that was my trick. And everyone saw it. It looked amazing. But like, I know it's not magic. How do I differentiate myself in this competition? So she gets up on stage with all of her glasses and she does some cool ass shit, is what happens here. She breaks all of the glasses and floats them up into the air above the dining table and then uses the pieces to make constellations. And she does a particular constellation that is supposed to be the sign that the king was born under, I believe. Do you remember
Mhm.
what sign it was? What constellation?
Uh, oh, I don't know that they, like, said, but the guy is very, like, "How did you know?"
Yeah, because it's like
"Magic, God told
yeah,
me."
it's a bit of like mixing the all-knowing prophet kind of skill with that. But what it's not actually, because Lucia went through St. Angel's bag and she got some like insider knowledge basically that kind of enabled her to tailor her magical demonstration a little bit more. And so she astounds the crowd and everyone's impressed with her and people are like, "Well, we didn't expect you to be that good, but good job." And so she kind of like it's not really a win, but she definitely surpasses expectations a little bit in this
Mhm.
first. Then the fucking Prince of Olives does his little lute bard thing and it's cute. And then the miracle child, what did we call her again?
The Holy Child.
The Holy
She
Child.
basically is like, "It's gonna rain."
Yeah. And people
I
are
imagined,
astounded.
Mean Girls when she's like, "There's a 40% chance it's already raining."
Yeah.
That's the Holy Child.
Yeah. So that's the conclusion of the first competition.
Yep, yeah, and I think the funny part is Saint Angel's, like, big mad because he's like, "I thought you were just some, like, dumb, unlearned scullery maid, yet, you obviously went through my personal effects and can read, and, I have questions." And so he kinda goes to, like, accuse her almost, but
Basically
somehow
accuses her of being smarter than she appeared to be.
yeah, it's like, "My man's you underestimated her and you're mad at her."
Mhm.
And that's kind of her attitude about it too, is like, "I'm just doing what I have to do to survive, like, are you really that mad?" And he's like, "Okay, you got me on that one, fine." But it's scary though, because she's brushing her hair and then all of a sudden a scorpion pops out. And, Saint Angel though is there to save her, and he's like, "It's okay, little buddy, like, climb into this cup." And basically, someone tried to murder her and make it look like it was Saint Angel, but Saint Angel was there during the, attempted murder, so didn't quite work out the way that whoever planned this had hoped. It's also kinda creepy because this is the first, like, moment we get that we kind of find out more about who Saint Angel is, because he makes these kind of, like, allusions to being a familiar to the, boy toy, but, like, he doesn't go into detail of, like, what a familiar is, and that's why I immediately thought, like, demon or something, but
Mhm.
we learned that's not quite, uh, the case. But it's also where we get the name, so
Yeah, that's kind of it's weird because Saint Angel's story kind of comes together in tiny little pieces, but they both suspect that it's the beauty who planted the scorpion against
Oh,
Lucia
yeah.
because the beauty's like, I thought I had this in the bag and then you fucked me. So
Yeah. You took my trick and did it better,
yeah.
bitch.
Mhm. After their interlude between Saint Angel and Lucia, there is the following day or within that same week, there is this call to have all of the competitors painted, have their portraits done. And so they're all summoned to courtyard for them to like hang out with each other. And so it's the beauty and the Prince of Olives and the Holy Child and Lucia. And Lucia's kind of looking around like, man, I don't belong here. Holy Child is kind of being creepy, like the child
Yeah.
from The Exorcist.
Yep. Exactly what I imagined.
And the beauty is in her element, just getting painted. So
Mhm. 'Cause I like the scene because it kind of, makes it a little bit more clear that they're all at the mercy of people in power, which I kinda think is, like, a main theme of this book. But it was,
mhm.
like, one of those weird scenes where you're like, "Why is this included?" But in hindsight, you're like, "Oh, it's one of these, people being puppet mastered by outside forces, and they're just all kind of like stray dogs hoping for the best."
This is where you also get the Prince of Olives, his background and why he feels kind of beholden to his patron or patroness. And he kind of tries to get Lucia on his side and be like, "Oh, poor me. I'm just a poor farm boy. I just happen to be very good looking and can sing." Uh, and he tries to almost bring her on board, but like, let's make an alliance and let's go against the other people. And Litzy is a little too savvy to fall for that, which I really
Mhm,
appreciated her, like her as a character. She's too selfish and self-serving and forward thinking to like go all in on anyone's game plan, including like Saint Angel's and her patron.
mhm. 'Cause I think that's what, like you said, I appreciated most about her character is she understands that people are looking out for themselves because she's looking out for herself, and so we never get that annoying, like, betrayal scene, really. Like, we kinda get one later, but
She reminds me a little bit of the heroine from Slaying the Vampire Conqueror.
yeah, I can see that. Mhm, but without the, like, softer center, I guess, because I
Mhm.
feel like she's pretty, like, selfish, not selfish in a bad way, but more, like, self-protective almost,
Yeah,
like,
she
to her
lives
core.
in a shitty world where she's, at risk of being prosecuted for her very existence at every single turn. So there's no other way for you to live in this land if that's kind of what your
Honestly.
background is.
But after their little chat or whatever, we move into the second task, and this is where it started to kind of feel like there were, overtures, deeper meaning that I was 100% not absorbing from the plot. But basically, the second task is they have a puppet, like, stage pulled up, and they have this Italian puppet master, and nobody really understands what they're supposed to do with this, but this like play starts, and basically they're meant to meet the devil in whatever form he appears to them. And so the first kind of scene in this puppet show is someone pops up and the holy child has to fight them, and they're like, how do you protect the child of Christ, baby Jesus? And they have to do some magic that plays into the puppet show. And so each are kind of asked to do something crazy until it's Lucia's turn. And all of a sudden, these puppets kind of grow into shadow freaky demon monsters. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, this is a little bit too real. Like, it was fine when we were just like talking about miracles, but this is like some actual demon magic shit. What the fuck? And so they have all these people from the church there, and they're like, oh my God. And then, the lights go out and everybody starts screaming, and people are getting like mauled by these monsters. And basically, Lucia starts to run away, but the beauty gets like tackled by one of these little demon things. And so Lucia has this moment of like, I could protect myself, but like, this is kind of fucked up. And so she saves the beauty, and they like run back to the house, but Saint Angel kind of pops up on his horse, and he's like, "Hey, we're the only people that understand that this isn't like this is real dark magic that someone needs to handle, or else, we're all gonna die." And so he snags her up on his horse. They run, and they realize basically that the only way these shadows are being like formed is that there's light reflecting off of them. And so if they take away all of the light, then the monsters will disappear. And so they turn out all of the lights. Everyone freaks out, but the monsters are gone. And then basically everyone is sequestered to their room as they do an investigation of like what the actual fuck happened during this show.
Looking at the story from a religious lens and a magical lens, it kind of forces you to look, well, would we really need a church? What's the point of a church if there's no evil? So there has to be evil in the world. There
Mm,
has to be an inquisition hunting down witches and evil people in order to justify their own existence. No angels without demons and vice versa.
got
And it's all
you.
just constructed.
That was, probably the intent I was supposed to pull from it. I was like, "Oh no, the puppet show is ruined." Wow, because that is, my brain is a little bit broken by how deep of a, like, metaphor you just pulled from that scene. Because that feels 100% accurate.
That's a theme from centuries and millennia of philosophy and contemplating the meaning of life and the purpose of religion, right?
Mhm.
Which is, yeah. I don't want to get into it because I'm not smart enough to talk about it. We should have invited we should have invited
Yeah, we
Rob
need
onto this
Robs.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
philosophy major.
the demons are kind of shuttered away. Everyone's sequestered into the rooms for their own safety. The beauty like pieces out. She's like, you know what? I'm fake. All of my stuff was illusion. I don't belong here. I'm gonna leave. Thank God.
I
Uh,
I loved that about her character because she was kinda set up from the beginning to be the, like, beautiful mean girl almost,
mhm,
but it was cool because Leigh Bardugo made it clear how superficial of a reasoning that is, and so the beauty was there the whole time just to find a husband, basically, and,
mhm.
like, she's like, "Okay, this is actually dangerous, like, I was just here to find a boyfriend, like, get me the fuck out." So it was cool how Leigh Bardugo made that, kind of, like, theme that you see in characters sometimes where they're the mean, mean, beautiful girl that doesn't have any thoughts besides being mean and beautiful, and kinda turned it on its head of, like, that's why she was there, but it didn't work out, and she's like, "I'm not gonna die for this shit."
Hell no. Like, I think we can all relate to that. Like, this got a little too real for me.
Yep. Yeah, but I just appreciated that it wasn't she didn't draw that out and make her some kind of, like, competitor
She
for
wasn't insidious.
Lucia.
She was just
Yeah.
again, she was a different brand of Lucia.
Mhm.
Self-serving, had her own purposes. It just wasn't Lucia's purposes, and it's a
Yeah.
different take on it. So, I don't know, I like the beauty too. But
Mhm.
Lucia is, like, chilling in her rooms, and then this is where we get the scene where a lot of stuff comes together, and so she's kinda waiting on Saint Angel, and up until this point, they've been kind of playing cat and mouse with each other, like, "Do you like me? Do I like you? Like, I'm attracted to you. Are you attracted to me? Like, I don't know what's going on here, but we have a weird teacher-student dynamic. We have a weird man-woman dynamic. Something's gotta give here." And it does, because Lucia is bathing. I immediately thought of the bath scene from Bride. So
Oh, yeah. I that's probably more accurate then.
so
Yeah.
Saint Angel comes to her room and proceeds to help her bathe, and it seems pretty, tame and PG up maybe PG-13 up until this point, and
Mhm.
at this point, things get a little bit more intimate in the sense that he reveals to her his backstory, which is so sad, but fascinating.
Yep. Yep.
So s whenever, because I'm not gonna do it justice, but basically, centuries ago, there was a prince who had everything in the world that he needed. He was wealthy and good looking and knowledgeable and had access to everything he could potentially want to learn about. And he had a very close friend, and they did everything together. And there was some factor of one of them fearing death. Was it him?
The prince, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
The prince.
like, "Okay, it's cool. I'm all of these awesome things, but eventually everything ends and I'm gonna die." And I'm, like, not really okay with that.
Yeah, and his friend, like, they had a true friendship, like, they would do everything for each other, and so this is kind of a shortened version of it, but in exchange for eternal life, his friend had to give up the thing that he cared the most about, and that thing turned out to be Saint Angel. So, um, his friend got what did his friend get? Like, he got
It's kind of like his luck almost because the deal with this, like, sketchy guy in the middle of the desert was that Saint Anchel, when he was a prince, had to give up the thing that he least cared about, but his friend had to give up the thing that he cared most about. And so Saint Angel's like, "Damn, sounds like a fucking deal to me. Go ahead." but the thing that he cared the least about was like this luck that he's had his whole life of everything just working out for the best. And so the best friend got his luck, and all of a sudden, Saint Angel just is tied to him forever.
Like, cannot leave his side and will never ever die, ever. Like, ugh, shitty
Yeah.
existence. And his
Yeah.
friend stopped caring. Like, yeah, so his friend stopped caring about Saint Angel. Like, that was the thing he cared about the most. In exchange, he got the luck. Saint Angel got eternal life and service to his friend for the rest of his life, despite being buried alive and burned. And yeah, the interesting thing is that Saint Angel, despite living for centuries, still doesn't want to die. And so he knows he can kill himself. Like, he knows there are ways to end his existence, and he still doesn't want to. So he's trying to look for a way out. And the way out that he identifies is for someone else to take over his role as the familiar for the descendant of his friend, because the friend did not live for centuries. He just lived a normal life, but his like subsequent generations inherited the luck and Saint Angel's like genie kind of existence with it.
Mhm. It's freaky too because it kind of, employs this sort of theme that rich people don't have to think so much or worry about certain things, that, luck will just fall into their lap and things will work out. 'Cause, basically, like, Saint Angel is like, "Oh, you might not have a son, and I'll be free." And the guy, the boy toy basically is like, "No, like, we always have sons, and you always have to stay, attached to them and be their familiar helper. Like, things are just gonna work out for me regardless. Like, I have this inherent luck. I don't need to worry about anything. Things are gonna work out. I don't know about you, but, like, I'll be fine." 'Cause that was throughout this whole thing, is like they're playing this in this competition, but he never feels really concerned about the outcome. He's like, "I'm just doing
Mhm.
this for funsies."
It's kind of sad when you like look at it through that lens. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause it definitely is kind of like, people's lives being controlled by outside forces,
Mhm.
of like everyone's kind of a player in the game, but it's whether you get played or you're hoping to win.
It's at this
That's
scene too.
depressing.
Yeah, like, look, we kind of get some resolution in the romance angle, like, this is supposed
Mhm.
to be a romance, it doesn't really read like it, but Saint Angel and Lucia, after the bath, basically decide to just sleep with each other, like, there's not a lot of emotional undertones with it, they're like, "Well, let's do this thing because I think we find each other attractive and we could die at any point." So, it's
Because I
super
think
descriptive.
Yeah, because it just feels too desperate for
Mhm.
me to, but, like, not desperate in the, like, needy kind of, "Oh, I've never been loved," but more in the way that, like, 2 people don't think they have anything to lose, so they're like, "Why not?" And it's like, "Oh, there's not really any emotional ties." Like, you guys are kind of fighting feelings for each other because you need to be self-centered, but, like, doesn't go much deeper than that. I was like,
And
"Oh, that's kinda sad."
this is kind of where I was disappointed the most, and I mean, to be fair, I I kind of default to romance as a genre. That's kind of my preferred angle. I prefer to have more romance in my stories. So what I appreciated about Shadow and Bone is that the emotional connection between the 2 leads, between her and him, her friend, felt like you could feel the emotional bond between them and the resolution
Mhm.
when they finally, like, reunited with each other. That was just so well done, and you actually felt sides. And this, I just like you said earlier, it's very Shakespearean, like, "Oh, I appreciate the development of this relationship, but I am not fully invested, and I cannot insert myself into the story." That's kinda how it feels once Lucia and Saint Angel get together.
Yeah, and I think it'd be a little bit more compelling if Lucia wasn't who she was, and so I think you
Mhm.
would lose something somewhere else in the story if she was a little bit more, like, emotionally dependent on Saint Angel,
Yeah.
instead of it just being like, "Well, you're handsome, you're here, I've never, had a relationship with a man before, like, let's get her done."
Yeah. She's
But
a
it's like
better
there's not really
she's a
anything
better
else.
heroine for this, I think.
Yeah. Mhm. And it's interesting too because I've read a lot of fantasy romance books where I'm like, "I wish she would be a little bit more ruthless and, like, cutthroat," and then I got it, and I'm like, "Wait a second, like, where's all the mushy love stuff?"
Right? There are
I'm
I'm trying to
obviously
think.
someone that cannot be pleased.
There's gotta be a couple good examples of, a heroine who has both, who has a very
Mhm.
strong emotional bond with the male character, but is also can be emotional, and we get that, like, oh mushiness.
Uh, Katza from Graceling.
I was just thinking that.
Yep, because we get that kind of, like, brutal aggressiveness, but it is, like, hiding her more, like,
Mhm,
emotional, uh, w weak, fragile inside, but I feel like Lucia is, like, hard to the core.
mhm. You know what I want before just one baby half step outside of the familiar? I want an adult Graceling.
Yeah, I
I
would
want
eat that shit
something,
up.
like,
Oh my god.
written with a little bit more depth. I want a little bit more challenging of, like, narrative, but the same characters, just more. I want
Mhm.
a medium rare steak and not a hamburger.
I feel that. We've, like, gone up, income classes.
Yep.
We're like, "I have a little bit more money in my bank account now, I want some
Mhm.
wine with my dinner."
Exactly.
I'm gonna order an appetizer. Oh god, because I love Poe too, 'cause, I feel like Poe and Saint Angel are, not foils of each other, but they're, like, kind of similar, but executed differently, I guess.
Mhm,
Where Saint Angel is kind of, like, conflicted and, like, I don't want to I like Lucia, I don't wanna put her in my position because I know how bad it sucks. But, like, Poe is more like, I love Katza and I'll give up anything for her. So I feel like it kinda shows the difference in
mhm,
characters that you can have these male characters that want the best for the other person, but it's like, how much self-courage do they have? And, Saint Angel does not have much until the very end.
no, he's kinda hard to like to some extent.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, he had the mysterious thing going on, and then he, like, didn't, and then it's like, "Oh, there's nothing under this
Hmm.
sheet."
So after they have their, like, "Bow chicka wow wow."
I was about to make the noise too. They're getting to know each other biblically.
Yes, they are. After they have a grand old time, they wake up in the morning and they see the Holy Child and her father getting dragged away by guards.
Yeah. This
We
was a plot twist.
Yeah, this was huge. I didn't know how to react to this scene because it's just a little child. Like, she's, like, described as wearing, like, lacy little gowns and dresses and Lee, and now she and her family are being dragged away by the Inquisition.
Because I feel like this is kind of, an interesting scene because we kind of start to realize that there's more to her than we originally thought. Because like, during the, like, lunch scene when they're all hanging out and talking to each other for the first time, you kind of get this perspective that she's a bit smarter for, an 8 or 9-year-old, and you're like,
Mhm.
"Why do you sound like an adult?" And then during this scene, she should be, like, screaming and crying as she's being taken away by the Inquisition to go face trial and probably die, because I think her and her family are Calvinists
Yeah, that's
in
what's
secret or something.
discovered is yeah, they're Calvinists, not
Yeah,
Catholic.
but she's walking away with her head held high, and she's, like,
Just pictured a
sermonizing
little girl, like,
almost.
giving the middle finger to a bunch of Spanish guards, like,
Yeah,
"Whatever,
it's
bro."
immediately like, "Wait a second, is the Holy Child, like, not a child, or, like, what the fuck is going on here?"
If you have seen Interview with a Vampire,
Mm.
there is a child vampire that is kind of similar shades to this character.
In the Twilight vein, she reminded me of, what's the girl's name that can control pain?
Oh,
Do you know
yep.
who I'm talking about
Yep,
in the
I know who
last
you're
one?
talking about.
Jane.
Same it is the same character, like, Interview with
Yep.
the Vampire, millennial version, Twilight, Gen Z version, and now we've progressed to I don't know what this is, but it's the same fucking character.
Yep, basically. So, the Holy Child is yanked out of her rooms and sent away, and You would think that the competition would be over, but they're like, "We still don't have a miracle worker, so we are gonna keep this shit going." And Lucia's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, people almost died last night, and you're still trying to, like, find a champion, and 2 of the people have dropped out." Okay.
Pretty much. So that's part 3. We will save part 3 of the competition for our part 3 of the familiar. That was a lot.
'Cause that's when shit kinda goes and hits the fan.
Mhm. There's
But I will say, it's kind of when the plot kind of fell apart almost.
Mhm. It feels like there was too much going on, too many characters introduced because you get way more of the political background in part
Mhm.
3, and
Yeah.
it's too many pieces to try and follow.
Yeah, because the second part definitely kind of focused more on, I guess, the action, but on the competition itself, where it probably could have done better with a little bit more of the political machinations behind it, so this 3rd
Mhm.
part didn't feel so fucking, like, slap in the face, what is
It's a
going
little
on?
yeah, it's a little overwhelming for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, yes, that it is. But, we also, in this very last scene of part 2, get, Victor and Saint Angel, or, like, the boy toy and Saint Angel, basically making a deal of, "If Lucio wins this competition, you get to walk away with your life, Saint Angel," for the first time in 8 generations, and Saint Angel's like, "Yeah, I guess I'm okay with this."
Yeah, and that if that doesn't make you sit back and be like, "Oh, okay, so they're together, kind of. They had this very emotional bonding moment over Saint Angel's backstory. They slept together, had a grand old time. He saved her life from the demons." But he's still like, "You know what? I'm a selfish asshole, and yeah,
Yep.
Lucia, you
I
can take
am
my
not
place."
I'm not courageous like that. I am not
Jeez.
the Poe of
No.
the world.
Yeah.
He's the butthole.
I'm I'm not the Poe, I'm the butthole.
Yep, that's Saint Angel.
There we go. All right.
Yep.
From our shelf to yours.
We'll see you on the next page. Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.
Bussin'.